What's up, everybody? The Knicks take game one on the road in the NBA Finals. We're going to break it all down. Let's get into it. Yeah, like I said, the Knicks take game one. I remember talking to my dad before this game, and I was like, "Yeah, I have Spurs in 7. You saw in the short earlier that if you saw that I did think it was going to be a close series, and I do think it could go any way. And I think people are undervaluing the Knicks right now. And I said I think the Knicks are going to take game one. I think being able to come into there where the Spurs are off such a high from that Thunder series, right? Like winning a game 7 against the reigning champs. I thought the Knicks were going to come in and steal one, and I think they did tonight. And I was very impressed. And I think let's just get to like the main point of this game and what happened in the fourth quarter. Captain Clutch came alive. The amount of times that I have said those two words about Jalen Brunson this playoff run is insane. And I don't even think like last year we saw so many moments from Tyrese Halliburton in clutch part of the games. I don't think that Jalen Brunson has done it to the capacity of that, but I think his run is kind of being undervalued because they've just blown people out. But he has been so clutch in games he has needed to be. For an example, this game right here, when the Knicks needed him, 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The Knicks were up like 2, I think, with 7 minutes left. He came alive. Or it might have been tied, actually. It was tied. And then the Knicks went on a little run, the Spurs went on a little run, and it was tied again. And then Brunson just came alive in the last 4 minutes of the game. And he was what every New Yorker has seen the entirety of when he's been here. He has been so incredible. And I think the main thing for me with Jalen Brunson that has been so impressive is he has come into the city of New York and he has put everybody on his back in the fourth quarter. When they need him, he comes alive. Every single freaking time. Happened in the Eastern Conference Finals too in game 1 against the Cavs. They were down 20 with 7 minutes left to go in the fourth. He went at James Harden every single freaking time and got them back into that game. When the Knicks needed someone to turn to in the fourth quarter, it felt kind of stagnant. It felt like both teams couldn't really make shots in the fourth quarter, that it was really hard if they were going to get buckets. It was going to be real tough buckets. They went to JB. And I don't even think that Jalen Brunson, it was all on the ball like it was at certain times in this playoff run, and especially this year. He worked off the ball when he needed to. Make a clutch corner 3 with like 3 minutes to go. Like, he made clutch shot after clutch shot after clutch shot and clutch possession after possession after possession. And that's what Jalen Brunson has done his entire career in New York. It's so much fun to watch. And I think that's the main thing that people are going to take away and remember about this game is that Jalen Brunson came alive and Captain Clutch was there every single time the Knicks needed him. And I think after the game it was crazy how like he looked like mad. Like he looked like, I don't know if it's like a determined look. I know he was a little annoyed with the refs at times in this game. It could have been about that. It could have been about maybe the fans. It could have been about really anything. But I also think like he is so locked in and understands that he's got to win 3 more to actually achieve his goal. And I think that's another thing. I think we saw Wemby after the game. Wemby did not have his best stuff tonight. He could have been a lot better. I said before this, I've said this pretty much since Game 7, that I think he's taken the title for best player in the world. He didn't look like the best player in the world tonight. He didn't. Jalen Brunson, I think, overshadowed him, especially in that fourth quarter. And I think that's one thing that you can look at in the next couple games and ask, like, first off, I think Wemby will show up. I think he looks determined. I think we saw that after the game, like him walking through the tunnel. Like, he looks mad. He wants this. I also think in that fourth quarter, can you start to question that did the young Spurs just not be able to contribute in the clutch? I thought De'Aaron Fox sucked tonight, straight up, which stinks for the Spurs because they have needed De'Aaron Fox in moments this year. And he stepped up a couple times. I thought in Game 7 he was actually pretty good in the Western Conference Finals, but like at other times he has just been irrelevant. He's been a ball handler, which has been nice. He's been able to share the wealth, which has been nice, but scoring, he has done nothing for the team that has been positive. And especially in this moment in the clutch, he was really nowhere to be found. He had a bad turnover late in the game. Technically, I think that might go off Vassell, but like it was on him. And then he missed a couple mid-range jumpers that like we've seen De'Aaron Fox hit 1,000 times that just didn't go down. But besides that, like, Castle, his shot really wasn't falling tonight, so I thought, like, hey, go to the basket more. And he kind of looked frightened at times to go to the basket. Dylan Harper, I thought he was great. I thought it was very interesting, Mitch Johnson's decision not to play him at the end of that fourth quarter and to go with De'Aaron Fox instead. De'Aaron Fox is obviously, like, technically right now, you're one of your veteran guys, which is crazy to think about, but he is technically a vet on this team. And Dylan Harper is still a rookie, but Dylan Harper severely outplayed De'Aaron Fox and has outplayed De'Aaron Fox the entirety of this playoff run. So I thought that was interesting that Dylan Harper was really good tonight. I was very impressed, and he didn't get much burn in the fourth quarter. I think also a coaching blunder, in my opinion, this might have been more of a Castle thing, was Castle, the amount of times that he was not the primary defender on Jalen Brunson was insane. He is the best defender on the floor for the Spurs by far, and Jalen Brunson is by far the best offensive player for the Knicks. The fact that Castle was not fighting over every single screen, was not, like, sticking on Jalen Brunson's back as much as he possibly can and making his life a living hell is insane. He did the same thing with Shea, or he did that with Shea in the last series, and it worked. And they stopped the MVP in a lot of different facets of the game. Now, Game 7 was tough, but and there were some games where Shea looked like the MVP, but there were some games where Shea couldn't do anything with Castle as the primary defender. And the fact that you don't take that bigger guard in Castle and you put him on Jalen Brunson and you stick that to Jalen Brunson the entirety of the game and make his life miserable is crazy. There were, like, so many times where there was a switch on a De'Aaron Fox, where Castle just didn't fight over the screen. Switch on a Devin Vassell, which they're not bad defenders, right? Like, but they're not on the level of Castle and the physicality that Castle brings. I think it also showed in Game 1, and I talked about this too, that on the podcast last week, that we won't really be able to see much in this series, like what the series is going to be like until Game 1, right? Like the first quarter of Game 1 will determine how the series is going to be. And I thought that's exactly what happened tonight. It was a fast and physical game. The Knicks played to the speed that they want to play with, right? And the Spurs are willing to play like that. Like we just saw it in the OKC Thunder series. Like they're willing to play fast, and they can beat you in your own game when you're playing fast. And both teams were insanely physical. I thought at the beginning of the game, no foul calls being called. Like the refs did, I think, a really good job at reffing this game. I think it was good that they weren't calling much because it let the game be really physical, which I think is something that benefits honestly both teams because the Knicks like to be physical. Their defense in this playoffs has been amazing. Like that is something that cannot be overlooked. They have been so good defensively in the playoffs. I thought Cat tonight was pretty dang good, especially defensively. It's another defensive thing that I think the Knicks have been great at. Cat has been holding his own in the paint and holding his own against bigs, right? Like for an example, in the second round, getting the Joel Embiid assignment is not an easy task. He did a really good job on Joel Embiid. In the last series, he limited Evan Mobley a lot. There were a lot of times where he was switched on to Evan Mobley after guarding Jared Allen, and he held his own outside. And I think tonight on Wemby, besides Isaiah Hartenstein, he's probably the best defender that Wemby has seen, which is crazy to say that about Karl Anthony Towns. Him being such a plus offensive player, for him to be contributing this much on defense is pretty incredible. There were times in this game where OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges just really couldn't play because they couldn't find their shot. OG hit a couple tough shots. Mikal hit some clutch free throws, but besides that, they really weren't great. The role players for the Knicks were awesome. Alvarado in the third quarter gave second quarter, I guess. Yeah, second quarter, Alvarado and Shamet gave a really big boost the Knicks needed. I thought that Josh Hart was incredible tonight. I think he was a plus 22. He had 3 points. Plus 22, 3 points. He was the most valuable player besides Jalen Brunson on the court for the Knicks tonight. You could make the argument for Cat, but Jalen Brunson is the guy, and Josh Hart is totally fine with that. And he's going to grab, what did he grab? 15 rebounds tonight. He had 3 points, 15 rebounds. He was a plus 22. He had 4 steals. He was just the glue guy, which he has been in the entirety of this playoffs. And I think that's what's so much fun about Josh Hart and so respectable about Josh Hart is he is willing to do the dirty work. There were so many times where I saw him just fly in and grab an offensive rebound and kick it back out. Right? That is the stuff for the Knicks that has set the tone for how they are going to play in the playoffs. This is a hard team that will hustle every single minute. They will scratch and claw for every single bucket. Defensively, they will scratch and claw for every single loose ball. And I think that's something that the Knicks in the past actually lacked because they didn't have the energy to keep it up, right? There's so many players that Mike Brown is deciding to use compared to Tom Thibodeau last year. that makes them be able to have fresh legs, and they can go after every loose ball, right? Like, they can play with so much heart because they have enough energy to do so. I thought the energy was another thing that was great, which I kind of already touched. The fast-pacedness. Dylan Harper I talked about a little bit. The Brunson injury in the first and second quarter, he went down with his knee and he went to the locker room, and then the ankle, which I don't think he technically went to the locker room for, but he went to the bench. That was kind of scary. He said he's fine. Mike Brown said he's fine, so I think he's going to be okay. I think he might have just tweaked it a little bit, and he'll put it on ice, and I think he'll be fine. There's no way he doesn't play in game 2. Besides that, Julian Champagnie in the first half was awesome. They guarded him. The Knicks guarded him very well, I thought, in the second half. But I think even though his shot wasn't falling as much in the second half and he wasn't able to get as many shots up in the second half, his hustle was awesome tonight. I thought Julian Champagnie was one of the best players for the Spurs. I genuinely think Dylan Harper might have been the best guy on the floor for the Spurs tonight. That's saying something. Dude's 20 years old. I genuinely think in Game 2, if there is another clutch situation, he needs to play over Fox. And that is nothing against De'Aaron Fox, but he hasn't showed it to you in the playoffs, like straight up. And I think that's going to be big decisions in the offseason, whether we keep Fox around, like whether the Spurs want to keep Fox around, because Dylan Harper is going to be better than him. He might already be better than De'Aaron Fox. And in the offseason, he will get better than De'Aaron Fox, and that's not a slot on De'Aaron Fox. If you know me, you know I love De'Aaron Fox. I used to love De'Aaron Fox in Sacramento. Like, I miss him in Sacramento and the way he played in Sacramento, because he's not doing the same thing for the Spurs, which I get it. He doesn't have to. But at some points, like, the shots have to fall, right? And if the shot's not falling, then he has to be unplayable at times for Mitch Johnson. Besides that, yeah, Cat, I think we need to talk about a little bit more. He was aggressive on Wemby, which is something that not many players do in general. Like, there were so many times in that first quarter and second quarter that Josh Hart would drive into the paint and would kick it out immediately. Didn't even think about shooting the ball when Wemby's in that paint. Cat went right at him, and Cat was okay with a couple times he got blocked, and then a couple times after that he went to the paint and he got a bucket, and he got a tough bucket. He was getting hacked all night. I was very impressed with Karl-Anthony Towns and the aggressiveness tonight. I think if he plays with that kind of intensity, the Knicks have a shot at really winning this thing. And I know they've won Game 1, but I do think in Game 2, and that can kind of transition us into like some Game 2 thoughts and predictions. I do think in Game 2 that Wemby will come to play, right? Like Wemby, I think Wemby finally started figuring stuff out in the second half of this game, because the first half he was not good. Objectively, I just don't think he was good. I think it takes a little bit to figure out how you're going to go at this Knicks team in the way that they're defending you. I think that takes a good coach in Mike Brown to make adjustments in Game 2 to make sure that he's not ready for what you're going to throw at him. But I think Wemby will be ready. I think he's that type of guy. I think he wants this so bad that he will be ready to play. So I think that's a question mark. Can Cat be as aggressive in Game 2? Can he keep that intensity up? Because if they keep that intensity up, sky's the limit. Can Jalen Brunson maybe provide a little bit more, right? Like, you're providing a ton in the fourth quarter, but I do need to see a little bit more in the first half. Because I don't think Stephon Castle will have that bad of an... I thought Stephon Castle wasn't as bad as some people might think. I think Fox at some point will have a game in this series where he looks like De'Aaron Fox. I think Stephon Castle will get to his spots more easily. I think this was a feel-out game, right? And I think for a young Spurs team, this is a game where if you won, I genuinely think it feels like a steal. Coming off the high, once again, from that Game 7, coming in at home as a young team, being able to beat a Knicks team that has been rested for, 10 days now, I think it would have been kind of a steal for the Spurs. So, I think this was a feel-out game. I think the Spurs will be ready in Game 2, and I think that's something that the Knicks have to figure out. And I think one more question for the Spurs is kind of a coaching decision, and I already said the Dylan Harper thing, but I also think, how do you manage Wemby's minutes? Because you were not good tonight when Wemby was off the floor, and Luke Cornett I don't think was great. Every single time Cat got matched up with Luke Cornett, he'd take him. Because the thing with Cat that makes him so special is when he is aggressive, that dude can get to the paint. He can get to wherever he wants, and he's quick, but he's also like the best three-point shooting big of all time. Luke Cornett cannot move his feet like Wemby can. And with Wemby's long wingspan, like Luke Cornett's got a pretty big wingspan, but not even close to Wemby's. Wemby can move his feet so well that it is so hard to drive on Wemby. Just literally just to get a paint touch on Wemby is very hard. And I think when Cat sees that switch on Luke Cornett, like, yeah, he's totally different defender. And Cat's quickness, he's way quicker than him. So I think that that's a coaching decision. Like, how do you manage Wemby's minutes? Because you're abysmal when he's off the floor. I shouldn't say abysmal, but you're not great when he's off the floor. So that's another question for Mitch Johnson. I didn't think his coaching was horrible. I thought the fourth quarter could have been a little better. I thought Stephon Castle could have been a little better on Jalen Brunson at fighting over every single screen. This is another point. Landry Shamet. I talked about him for a second. The fact that Landry Shamet is playing in a fourth quarter closeout game in the first game of the NBA Finals is crazy. Can we think about where Landry Shamet was like 2 years ago? Right? Like bouncing around teams. He was on the Suns for a while. He obviously, I think he technically, I don't know where he went between the Suns and the Knicks. Did he even go anywhere? I don't remember. But like, what Landry Shamet is doing right now in this Knicks run is irreplaceable. He has been one of their best shooters. He has come in clutch whenever you've needed him. And he forced a crucial turnover on like the second to last possession that pretty much sealed the game for the Knicks. He's hit clutch threes when he's needed. He missed 1 3, I think, in the Eastern Conference Finals. And in this game, I thought he was great. I thought he was exactly what the Knicks needed. He gave energy off the bench. He was jawing at Julian Champagnie. He was getting in people's heads. Like, Landry Shamet is the type of player that you will look back at a championship team and be like, oh yeah, that was one of the guys who came in clutch in certain games that wasn't one of the stars. That was a role player that came out of nowhere and was just a stud. And on this championship run, Landry Shamet has been that. I've been severely impressed with him. Besides that, honestly, I don't know what's going to happen in Game 2. I will say I have Spurs in 7. And I think that the first game was a feel-out game, right? Like it always is. In a young team like the Spurs team, I do think that they have good enough coaching around them that they will punch back in Game 2. It just depends on how the Knicks respond to that punch, right? Because the Spurs are hit right now, but I don't think they're down. They're down in the series, but I think their mentality is like, let's go get Game 2. Let's tie this thing up, go back to MSG. Let's just get our feel. And I think they will. And I do think that the Spurs will punch back and win Game 2. I do think it'll be another close one. I think maybe in the fourth quarter, there has to be a decision on like how do we stop Jalen Brunson in the clutch? Like what is the situation? How do we make someone else beat us in the clutch? Because besides that, I do think that someone will come alive in the clutch for the Spurs. Whether that's Wemby, whether that's Castle, whether that's Harper, whether that's Fox, there's so many guys who could come alive. But I am very interested to see how this series plays out. I am going to stick with my pick with Spurs in 7. Like I said, I thought the Knicks were going to win Game 1. This isn't a crazy surprise to me, but I was very impressed with the way the Knicks play. They play like some dogs tonight, and their defense and offense, they've won 11 straight games, and I honestly think their offense has been great, but their defense has been even better. Shout out to the Knicks. Also, shout out to the Spurs. I think they played a really, really feisty, good game. Just a lot of shots weren't falling, especially for Wemby, and when that happens, it's very tough to win. So, I do think the Spurs will bounce back. I think it'll be a really good Game 2 as well. But Game 1 was a really, really good start to the NBA Finals. So, I appreciate y'all for watching. Peace.